Good morning and welcome to Emerson Institute at City of Light. I'm Reverend Dr. Paul Gretz and I'm welcoming you to the Dr. Angelo Pizzello Wisdom Center here on the third floor of our campus located at 3125 Presidential Parkway in Atlanta, Georgia. Today we are doing a study on the Book of Truth, and this is class number 9, and the focus is the triumph of the new. This book is written and authored by Paul Selig, and we are just enjoying the discussion and the input from so many of you around this topic, as well as enjoying the unfolding of just a spiritual enrichment experience within our lives. And so we're so glad that you've joined us for today. Now, to prepare for this class, what we're going to do is take some deep breaths. Now, this helps us reset our intention, our focus. We're going to not only just reset our vibrational frequency to this moment, bring ourselves into the now, but following that, we're going to set an intention. This is to express a desire of what you would like to achieve during this time that we share together. And I think this is very essential to our learning experience as we begin to name what it is we want to receive. What would we like to experience during this time? Let's make it a really, shall we say, something that is not vague, but really focused as we begin to talk about what it is exactly we like to experience. So begin to think about what that is. Let's breathe together first, and let's reset that vibrational frequency into the here and to now, into this moment. We're going to breathe in through our nose, hold for a brief moment, and then breathe out, just releasing all the cares of the day. Join me now. Breathe in and release. Deep breath in and release. Deep breath in and release. Now set your intention for that which you desire to experience during this time that we share together. Name that desire. Set that intention right now. And so it is. Wonderful. Well, this is class number 9. We are going on with one more class to complete all 10 chapters of this book. And then we're going to take just a brief break, and then we'll begin again with a new book, Alchemy, another book written by Paul Selig. And I think you'll enjoy this ongoing series. We're looking forward to the study just continuing on in a powerful way in our lives. So here we go with class number 9, the triumph of the new. Today's lesson is in love. And when we are being love, we are knowing who we are, and we are the causation of the miraculous. We then are the cause that brings about amazing effect of good. So when we are being love, that means that when we are living from this consciousness, I am love. I am the divine right here and now. And how we might really picture the divine is by really understanding love to its fullest extent. Love being that of compassion and care that is so unconditional. Wow, I think we as humans have a little challenge with unconditional love. We have points where we really find it easy to love those based on certain conditions, certain feelings, certain experiences. But we're called to live in the realm of an unconditional love that loves everything and everyone equally and shares that love and demonstrates that love. And when we then become the causation or the cause that brings about an effect. So we are walking in this world in the spirit of love, in the awareness of love, and we're causing effects to take place. We're causing things to happen when we live from the perspective of love. We cause things to happen that are therefore our good. So how many of you would like to live a life where you're bad or not as good, or live the life of the worst, or live the life of the not so good, huh? I don't see any hands going up, but what we are desiring of is to live a life that's bringing about better good, higher good, more awareness of good. We want to bring about blessing in our lives. So to do so, what we have to do is begin our day with this awareness, I am love. That's how I walk into the room. I am love. So I hope you all are aware of that right now, that you are love, you are love, you are love. We're all love. And when we come from that perspective, what we do is we create. We are the cause that brings about an effect for the good in our world. Now, too often we've imagined love as a feeling versus a vibration. And the author wants to bring this out, that thinking about love more so as a vibration, because sometimes, well, I don't feel love. I don't feel loving. I'm not feeling very loving today. And so what we want to do is we want to shift that vibration, and that we are not basing it on just how you feel, but the demonstration of what you desire, regardless of feeling. And so we begin to move in a consciousness that love is a vibration versus a feeling. And that is an elevation that takes us to a higher level of living and existing in this world. And when we are living in the vibration of love, this vibration will infuse the frequency of the landscaping in which we exist. In other words, it's going to penetrate the world around us. So if you wake up and you set your intention, I am love, and I will be love in all ways. And when I move and just exist within this world, I am coming from this wonderful perspective of love. That vibrational frequency is going to have an impact on the whole world that you encounter. That when you're coming from love, it's going to now be the causation of good. It's going to help to usher in good. It's going to bring about good. It's going to elevate the vibrational frequency. So right now, what I'd like us to do for all of our students who are gathered in this room, I want you to begin to say, I am love. Let's say it together. I am love. Let's say it really good with confidence. I am love. I am love. Say it again. I am love. And for those of you joining us through our live streaming and our YouTube channels, say it with me. I am love. I am love. You see, when we acknowledge this, that is who we are. Not what we hope to be, not what we are trying to be, but that's who you really are and what you really are. You are created in this world as the essence of the divine, which is love. God is love. You are God revealed. You are love expressed. So when you're expressing that love, it's going to have an impact. And already we acknowledge that we are love. So let's just do a little exercise of just visualization of us wrapping up all the love within us. A vibration of love, as if it were a golden glowing ball. And let's just picture that. Close your eyes for a moment and picture that as if you've wrapped up all the love within you as a beautiful golden orb, a ball, a globe of golden glowing love. And it is radiating from within, and it's radiating and just oozing out this energy and vibrational frequency of love. Now, I would love you to just pass that orb, that glowing ball, to the person on your left. And just visualize you are giving that wonderful essence of love to the person on your left. And for those of you joining through live streaming, I am visualizing I'm giving this golden orb to you, this sense of love, all wrapped up in, and I'm just sharing this love with you. Now, for those of you who are on the left of that person, receive now this golden orb. Receive this gift of love. Feel this love coming into you. Feel it as if, oh, the warmth coming from the person next to you. You're receiving it. It is coming into you. You're taking it within. You're embracing it all. You're feeling this wonderful love. Ah, it feels so good. Now take that sense of this golden orb and pass it on to the person on your right. And this is this wonderful exercise of passing this essence of vibrating love. You're sharing it with one another. And now be that person who receives that gift of love. Receive that love into your heart, into your life, into your being. It's a radiating energy of power. You've had this wonderful exchange of love going on from one to another. Now, how does that feel? Come back into the room and let's just talk about that for a moment. As you had this wonderful experience of love being shared in a visual exercise. Anyone sense that you felt that love or felt that vibration, feeling it in a new and fresh way? Well, that's the intention of what we're called to do every day. I'm here to radiate this love. I'm here to send you love. I'm here to give you love at all times, in all ways. And I'm also receiving the love from one another. And this is, again, where we need to be really good at realizing what someone is doing that's very loving and receive that. Whether it be a comment, a gesture, an act of kindness. Anne is coordinating a wonderful lunch for us this afternoon, and we're just feeling her love for each and every one of us in putting this together, making sure that we don't go hungry. And she's actually listing out how many pieces of pizza are we going to have, and how many do you want to eat, and we have to think about, wow, isn't that a loving thing? That's a very loving and kind thing that she's doing for us. Sorry for those who are joining us live streaming. If you're in class today, in person, you'd be enjoying some good pizza afterwards. Anyway, what we want to do is just this acknowledge love that we're receiving and kindness and gestures that are being offered in the world. And acknowledge that. I've just received some love. I've just received some God. I've just received a revelation of the divine. So we're becoming more and more aware of this vibrational frequency called love that is impacting our world, that is a causation or a cause creating an effect for good. Anne.
You know what? You can even take that a step further and consider that within a group and not just one-on-one. But David said love to Steve, and he received, and then he sent love on, and then we moved it back and forth, and that's that opens up that whole concept for me. It's not just one-to-one.
Right.
Yeah.
There's a divine flow. Amy.
I haven't read the book because I'm coming in at the end of this class, but would that also apply to joy and to peace and to just say joy and peace. We'll just stop
Yes.
there. So joy and peace then are not emotions; they are vibrations. That's what you're saying.
We're so accustomed to thinking about joy and peace as a feeling, but let's now focus it on as a vibration, as
but the vibration then
is shared.
Makes the feeling
Yes.
in your body. So
Exactly.
okay.
And that's how we're feeling. Not to say that theirs are not feelings, but let's begin to think of it more as a vibration that's coming from us, that is radiating out from us. So I think this is the great experience that we're called to go through in life, is to become so aware of giving love and receiving love from one another. Because we can go through the course of our day and not really acknowledge the loving experiences that we've already encountered, and not really acknowledge the wonderful ways people have demonstrated love to us, or really acknowledged, wow, that was an opportunity for me to give love, to share love. Oh, shoot, I missed that. Oh, I wish I'd done that better. So we want to do this evaluation, shall we say, how am I radiating in this world? How am I doing this? I send out a Facebook spiritual tip, and I always end it with sending you love. And my prayer is that not only just that you read this little spiritual tip that I share on Facebook, but that somehow you also feel that it's been shared with the vibrational intention of uplifting and you feeling and receiving the love that's coming from my heart. So I want to say that I'm sending love in a vibrational context. I'm sending it out to everyone, that as you read it, that you might embrace this awareness, that it might elevate you in the vibrational awareness of this posting being a causation, a cause for effect. David Carter has a comment.
I have a question.
A question.
Okay, so I'm trying to put all of this together from the first chapter to where we are now. So when you sing the song, which is that I know who I am, I know what I am, I know how I serve, I am here, okay. When you sing that song, it says you call forth the Christ itself, which is opening up your awareness to who you really are, right? Okay, so when you do that, every time you do that, because it's not a feeling but a vibration, that means that it changes your perception of everything around you.
Very
You know what
good.
I'm
Yes.
saying?
Yes, it does.
Okay.
And, really, the awareness of love is the awareness of the Christ presence within us. When we are acknowledging, I am here, I am here, I am here, I am present. This is who I am. I'm here to love and to serve. When we acknowledge all of that, what we're doing is helping us to really focus on this wonderful vibrational frequency and to help it be more conscious in our thought life and how we act. So what happens is this love calls us to service. And I'm going to tell you this, that so much of spiritual understanding of various different traditions, whether it be Hindu, whether it be Jewish, whether it be Muslim, whether it be Buddhist, there is a component that's so crucial to our spiritual life called service. How do I serve someone else? Of course, this is the demonstration of love. Demonstration of love is service, doing unto others, and doing it in the manner which we would like it done unto us. So, do unto others as you'd like them to do unto you is our service motto of how we want to share service in this world. A lot of people say, well, okay, I'll do service, sloppy service. I'll do whatever service. I'll do something for others in the world. How can I get along? How can I get this done quickly? How can I just, do whatever? Well, is that the way you would like it done unto you? So everything in life is an opportunity for you to demonstrate to the world and the universe how you'd like it done unto you. How would you like to do it? In board member training, one of the things that we share for boards is this is your opportunity, as you've been given a role that can make a lot of decisions, is how would you like to be treated? That's how you make the decisions concerning the church, others, people, the administrative issues that you work with. How would you like to be treated? This is your opportunity. You're now given a responsibility and an opportunity. How would you like to treat someone else? Because a lot of times, it's interesting. I've had board members come in and they, in my 43 years of pastoral ministry, where they say, I am here, Pastor, to tell you no, because there's not enough people in the world telling you no, 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 no. We need to get a hold of this. And I'm like, wonderful. This is your opportunity to treat people the way you'd like to be treated. So I understand what you'd like to hear is no from me. So I'm going to tell you right now, no. So if that's the way you want, if that's what you like, but here's your opportunity. How would you like to operate and work collaboratively in a world together? How would you like it to be? Because every step of your life is your opportunity to convey to the universe how you would like to be treated. So think about that when it comes to how you radiate love. To what level, to what dimension, to what degree would you like to receive love? Well, then bestow that on others. Share that. Radiate that with others. So this calls us to understand our level of service. It calls us to be giving of our time and talent and treasures and service to the world around us. How can we be love and not serve those in need? It sounds really strange when we're called to be love. You are love. How can we be God revealed if we're not there to help and assist those in need? Now here at City of Light, we've created Crossroads Community Center, a community center that's whole mission is caught up in its name, a crossroads, an intersection. It's an intersection between service and need. That's why we're called Crossroads. Some people think, oh, it's about the cross of Jesus dying, and that's why it's the road to the cross. No. We're missing the whole point. It has nothing to do with Jesus' death. It has nothing to do with a cross, a wooden cross at all. It is about the intersection where we are bringing service and intersecting it with need. And that's where Crossroads Community Center is, right there, right at that intersection, where we see the needs of the world and we're offering service opportunities for people to volunteer and to give and to be the light to be the radiant beacon in the world. That's what we've created, is this crossroads, this intersection where the two of them come together. Because we acknowledge we are love, we acknowledge we are God revealed in this world, and we acknowledge that the best way we can be the light in the world, that the best way we can be love in the world, is to intersect, is to be there at that intersection where we see a need and we bring about service. We bring the volunteers. You know, there's a lot of people say, I would love to serve in a greater way. I would love to give back to my world. And that's what we're doing. We're looking for more and more opportunities for people to give back, to serve, to live out their calling of being a light in this world. And we are acknowledging the needs of the world around us and creating then, this is a place of intersection. This is a place of a crossroads where things come together. Now, when we become love, we begin to understand what the kingdom of God means. We begin to understand this whole concept. Now, the word kingdom is presenting a word picture for us. And sometimes we get caught up in this literally. And of course, those who were hearing Jesus's teaching, thinking that he was coming as a king or a kingdom, he was creating a kingdom, and they were thinking a physical kingdom. Wow, you're going to help us overthrow the Roman occupation? Wow, this is great. Jesus, the social activist who's going to overthrow, and we really want to follow. Oh, but Jesus was saying, no, you're missing the point. I'm talking about the kingdom of God. I'm talking about the realm of God. I'm talking about the presence of God. I'm talking about the dwelling of God. And that is not in a physical place at all. It is that which is found deep within. We go within in our consciousness and we experience the realm of God, the kingdom of God, the kingdom of heaven. And again, we get very literalist. We think of heaven as the place we go when we die, but heaven is simply a place of higher consciousness. It is elevated thinking. It is that place of full awareness that we are love and who we are. That's what heaven is. And you're invited to go to heaven right here, right now. You're invited to be in heaven right here, right now. We are also understanding that hell is that which we create in our own life. And there are many people who are living hell on earth and are dwelling in hell, and their life is hell. And they have created it, and they have embraced it through their thinking, their consciousness, through their ignorance. But we are called to be liberated from that, to be set free from the bondage of that kind of stinking thinking, of that erroneous thinking that has led us into this place of chaos and worry and stress that is a focus all about the limitations of life. And it is the word picture that Jesus went to the city dump in Jerusalem called Gehenna. And he said, look at this. This is the example of what hell is like. And we could say, oh yeah, we're living in the realm of trash thinking, junk thinking, and it is burning us up, and it is tormenting us, and it is causing us to live in all kinds of stress and worry and fear and limitation of life and impossibilities. And Jesus' message is the message of liberation, that when we are born again, when we have a new thinking, a new way of thinking, we're liberated from that city dump visual. We're liberated from that kind of life. We're liberated to live in the realm of the kingdom and to have a higher consciousness, a greater awareness of love, of the presence of love within us. And we acknowledge that's who I am. And love knows no fear. Love is fearless. Love is not engaged in stress and worry and all those kind of things, because love overcomes all those things. And when we become love, we begin to understand what this kingdom of heaven means. And everyone is invited to dwell in this kingdom, to be in this presence, to be in the kingdom of heaven. So when asked the question, who will be in heaven? Who will be in heaven? Heaven is this higher consciousness. Who will be free from this world of limitation? Anyone who is welcoming this experience in their life, who will be be fully in consciousness or in this divine knowing? Who will be in this wonderful sense of understanding and comprehension? Anyone who opens their life to this experience of a new thought, a new way of thinking, of being born again. Steve had a question or comment.
So as you were talking about love and stress is not part of love, so what would you say about, let's say, a father or a mother who's stressed about a child who's involved with crystal meth or some kind of crime or whatever, and a really bad habit, what would you describe what the parent is going through? Is it not love, or is there stress involved with that?
And here's the key. We begin to see that child who's going through this challenge as perfect. We stop focusing on the imperfection. We stop saying, my child is addicted to drugs. Is that what the scenario is? Let's just say, my child is a drug addict. No, I now see my child as health, whole, complete, perfect. And I begin to operate from that perspective. And in this perspective, I release all stress, worry about this. And I begin to claim and believe that my child is unfolding its highest and best here and now. And I see my child from that perspective. Because let me tell you this. Each and every one of us have gone through experiences where we have created our own hell based on our choices. And some of us will look back and say, you know what? I'm kind of glad I went through hell because it impacted my life. It changed me for the better. I missed the mark. I sinned. Yes, I missed the mark. And let's just refocus on the word sin, because we've got sin as like, oh, that's the worst thing you've ever done in your life. You've separated from your glory, and you are just a lots of S's, sinner with lots of S's. You know, if we're going to give some real guilt and shame to it all. But what we've done is we've missed the mark. But every great inventor will say, I have failed until I've learned through every one of these experiences of failure how to achieve. And so what we're wanting here is to, before we put all kinds of guilt and shame on our child for the error that they are, and then we begin to framework, oh, my child is a drug addict. I identify my child as a drug addict. Oh, my child is now on drugs. We then sort of begin to see our child from that perspective. It's the same thing that we're invited to say. The minute you start saying, I see myself as a cancer patient, I am cancer, I own cancer, I live cancer, you know what? That's what's limiting your healing. But when you begin to say, I am liberated, I am whole, I am free, I am complete, I am not cancer, I am whole and perfect. Okay, hands are going up. Let's go to David, then we'll come to Lethe.
Okay, I'm going to piggyback on what Steve's question was. In the moment that your child has overdosed, and let's say the paramedics are there and they're giving them Narcan or whatever, and they're trying to revive your child who was overdosed on drugs, in that moment, what should the parent's mindset be in that moment? Because to me, that moment is different than your child is using crystal meth. In this moment, your child's life is on the line.
Right.
What should the parent's mindset be?
It's a mindset of healing and wholeness, okay? That's what our mindset should always be in every scenario. We keep our mind on the highest and best. We see the highest and best. We live from the highest and best. We don't say, I live from the highest and best. Oh, as soon as a problem comes, I'm going to live down here and say, oh, my child's a drug addict, and my child's dying, and my child's sick, and all I see is my child is ill, and they're in the hospital, and I see and I focus on all the problems. Wait. Aren't we called to be in the realm of the kingdom, thinking in the higher consciousness?
Yeah.
So then all of our thought needs to elevate and go back up to the vibration of love. And love sees and knows and experiences the highest and best. The world around us would love to pull us down into that, oh, I'm scared, my child's a drug addict. Oh, I'm frightened, my child's in the hospital. Oh, my Lord, they've overdosed. Oh, my God, it's just, they are an addict, and this is how horrible it is. And I need to call 6 people and say, do you know how bad my child is? And, it's that kind of thinking that we bring ourselves down.
Okay. And I get that. I'm just saying that, there are parents who love their children and in spite of what their children might be doing that's harmful, I'm talking about that kind of parent in that moment. I mean, I get what you're saying, and that makes sound sense, especially when you're not being challenged. It's perfect when you're not being challenged. I'm just being honest.
Yeah. So when you're being challenged, you think it's okay to be, what, unloving?
No. I'm just
Okay.
saying that in that moment when the challenge arises, when your child is, they're trying to resuscitate your child, in that moment, you love your child, but how do you combat your fear that you're losing your child? That's, maybe I'm not asking the question
Great.
right.
How do we combat our fear? Okay. Again, we go back to the acknowledgement of who and what we are and who and what they are. That we are eternal. Okay. So, my beloved Robert passed away in March. How do I deal with that? He's eternal. He didn't die. His body did. Robert is experiencing something amazing right now. And at his last moment of breath, I was there, walked into the room and to check, searching for a pulse. And I just said, you go, Robert, you go. Go on, go to the light, go to whatever it is that you're experiencing right now. And don't even delay or don't worry about me. Just go on and start celebrating and dancing and enjoying, because I know you are eternal. Now, your body gave up, but you did not. You were rebirthed. You're born into something wonderful. You've left this life experience. So our focus has to be, if it's not this wonderful awareness that we are all eternal, and we're looking at our child in this moment, that child is eternal, and whatever they're going through is just a brief moment in the middle of eternity. Think about this 90-some years that you're living on this planet in the light of eternity is how much? Wow, how would you even measure it? Not even like a grain of salt. It is so small in the light of eternity. Okay? You always have been. You are. You always will be. This is how we look at every scenario. So when people pass, we celebrate their rebirth in going on, knowing that we too are going to join them in going on as well. Now, we mourn the loss of their companionship and their voice and their presence. But we also know that we are souls and we're eternal and we will be with them again. And so this is just, shall we say, a moment where we're separated in the physical, but we're never separated in the consciousness. Okay.
Okay, so if you're with that parent and that parent does not have the understanding and knowing that you have, how would you comfort them in that moment? On their level of understanding.
Yeah, and that's the key, is on their level. How do we comfort people who don't have this enlightened status of understanding? And so we, with great compassion, we hold to this wonderful truth. All things work together for good to them that love. All things will work together for good. So what we want to do is help that parent understand that whatever we're going through right now, everything has a season and a reason. Everything we're going through right now is therefore working for our highest and good. And so, yes, you're concerned about your loved one, but hold true to the truth that as you go through these experiences that we're going through, that there are reasons for us. They are all about the evolution of the soul. And what I want to encourage you to do is understand this very thing. It shall come to pass. We brought this out, that we move through this. No matter what you're going through, don't stop and set up camp. Your child is sick and in the hospital due to a drug overdose in this scenario. Don't sit there and set up camp. But you begin to claim that you're moving through this experience to what is next, and that's the child's highest and best. What is yet to come? What is that healing experience, this wonderful revelation, this child now waking up from this drug overdose and going, Mom, I'm never going to do this again because I finally learned my lesson. Or this was so traumatic. Or then we go, thank you, God, that they went through this experience. And we as parents say, I don't want them to go through these experiences. I would, but how do they learn? How do they, some of us are students of the school of hard knocks, and that's the only way we learn. We got to learn the hard way, You know, there's a lot of people in life, you know, parental advice can say, honey, if I were you, I wouldn't do that. That's Barbara Summers' mother constantly saying, we always heard that, if I were you, if I were you. But you know what? They got to experience their own self. They got to do it the hard way, shall we say. Rather than hearing the advice, well, that's my mom, that's my dad just saying this stuff. I need to go through it myself. And so a lot of people are going through it for the purpose of the evolution of the soul, for their good. So this is why, you know, I wish someone had taught me how to parent when I was younger, in the context of just saying, you know what, your child is going through something. Don't worry. They're going through it. They're not staying there. They're not camping out there. They're going through it. And my job is to help them go through it. Not to go, oh my God, you idiot, you fool, you stupid person. How could you do drugs like this? How could you get yourself in this scenario? How could you do this? I want to kill you. I want to slap you. I want to spank you. I want to do all these kind of things because I'm so angry at what you... Wait. No, my job is to help the child through this. And to constantly say, what are we learning? Honey, what are we learning as we go through this? What are you experiencing? You know, you're in the hospital. You're dealing with a drug overdose. What have you learned in this? And let me tell you, this is where we're called to be the instructors as parents, bringing out what are we learning. And as a pastor and as your spiritual coach, quite often I'll sit down with people and say, well, Pastor, I'm going through all kinds of problems. They'll say, and I'll say, well, what are we learning? Tell me what you're learning. I'm here to help you. What are you learning through this experience? What have you learned? What do you think you're going through? What do you think the reason is? And then we begin to evolve and learn what the lesson may be in our journey based on choices we've made, based on our understanding and our beliefs, and on it goes. Does that help to answer the question? So certainly, we want to be love, and love is always going to approach every scenario from the highest and best, because love sees the highest and best. Love sees you healed. Love sees you whole. Love sees you successful. Love sees you prosperous. Love sees all of that. So don't get caught up in saying, no, I see you as sick. I see you having an illness. I see you poor. I see you unsuccessful. I see you failing. No. That's not what love does. Okay, a hand was going up. Was this Ann? Ann, yes.
I think I'm still on your scenario, but I'm thinking about everything. And if you are in oneness, then you are in oneness with that child who's in a trauma situation. And you have to, I think, in order to get objective, or you have to step back a little bit in order to be able to even pray for them because you're so emotionally wound up. But that's where it gets confusing for me. But I think if you can step back a little bit, then you can ask yourself, what would I, how would I help myself if I were in that situation? And that's what you pray for, I guess, because we're all God and we're all one. So the best in me I can give to my child, I think, but the stepping back part has me a little confused, because that then suggests a separation mentality. No?
I don't think it suggests a separation so much as understanding, like it says in one of those Science Mind magazine articles, that even though that's your child that you gave birth to and they're going through this traumatic experience, stepping back means that you're realizing that it's their journey and it's not your journey, it's theirs. I mean, it's easier said than done, but it's, when you step back, you're realizing that it's their journey. And then, like Dr. Paul said, you help love them through it, but it literally is their journey, not yours.
The journey is separate, but the oneness in God is not.
Right. And how they are evolving their oneness in the unique way is all about their journey. And boy, oh boy, as parents, we like to make their journey our journey. Right. We want their journey to be ours. We want them to do, because we think we know best, and we get caught up in, oh, that's their journey. And don't we like that? I mean, if we all look at someone like, oh, I'd like to help you with your journey. Let me tell you, I'd like to help you with your journey. I love this. If the first commandment had been mind your own business, we wouldn't need the other 10. you know.
Isn't
So-
there a Bible verse that says something about if you see someone else doing something, you're supposed to go and tell them they're doing wrong or something like that? Isn't
Right.
there something
Well,
in the Bible about that?
It's about helping people with healing, helping them go through what they're going through. It's not about pointing fingers or guilt or shame or any of that kind of
Yeah, I never thought it was that, but
Right.
now metaphysically, how do we look at that?
How do we, when we see someone who's having a challenge or going through something, really it's about us. So it says when you have aught with your brother is the word. When there is a problem that you have with your brother, drop your gift at the altar, stop what you're doing, your worship, your praise, your going to the whatever you're doing, that your religious act, set it aside and first go and heal that relationship with someone else.
Oh, okay.
So, but that's what you're doing in you.
Right.
It's not coming to someone else saying, I see you have a problem and I'm here to correct it for you. And I'm here to tell you where you're wrong and I'm right. You know, trust me, religion has been trying to do that for years and it's never worked. So we want to let everyone know that each one is on their own journey. Now let's go to Lethe. She's had a question.
I think my question, David pretty much sums it up.
Okay.
The fact that it's really their journey, even though we're hurting for them, we still have to send out positive vibration, but we have to understand that it is really their journey. And as you said, some people cause these things upon themselves. I think that's what I'm hearing.
Right.
So, you know, I'm getting it. I'm understanding it.
So what does the mother do? But she pushes the baby bird out of the nest, correct?
Yeah.
Because she doesn't fly for the baby bird, but teaches the baby bird how to spread its wings. And this is what we're called to do, because that bird needs to do its own journey, its own flight path, its own process of flying. So that baby bird's got to learn to do it on its own. So the mother doesn't do it for it, doesn't try to change anything. It just says, this is how it's done, pushes the baby out of the nest to say, okay, here's your chance. It's your journey. Here's your chance to learn how to do this. And this is again where we as parents have to kind of let go and just say, wait a minute, it's your journey, not mine. I'm going to do the best I can. I'm going to equip you. I'll help you through it. I'll do all the things I can in demonstrating love, but it's going to be your journey and your choices. I'm not going to make them for you. I can't make them for you. All right. Was there someone else with a comment? Anne. All right. I loved our discussion today. Y'all are doing great.
Good, but the mother bird doesn't shove the baby bird out of the nest when it's first born or when it's
Right.
too young. I think nature would dictate when that baby bird is ready to go on their own. And,
Yes.
You know, it's hard to know. Is it too early? Is it what should I do?
Right.
All that stuff. But it's
In the right and perfect time. Yes.
I'm
So-
picturing this mother bird saying, "Okay, let's clean house. You know, everybody go. If you can fly, you fly. But otherwise, fall down and."
No, but when they're ready to fledge, nature knows that when it's time
Right.
for them to fledge.
Right.
Yeah.
And the same thing, you know, we're going to treat our child differently when they're 4 years old than when they're 15, right? Because they know more. There's a different phase in their life. There's an age of accountability that they've risen to. So when they're 4, we're going to help them make choices. We're going to be there as a guiding influence. But when they're 14 and 15, they want to show their own independence, and we're going to be a little different. So that's would be an analogy that in the right and perfect time, the mother bird will push the baby bird out. Great. I love all your questions, and I love your let's process. I love this. Let's work it out, stretch it out like taffy. You know, we're pulling it out until we get it to work right, right? And I love that because what we're doing is trying to connect all the dots in our process. So questions, I love them. Comments, I love them. Keep them coming. So let's go back here to understand that everyone will experience the divine in the rebirth that we call death. Everyone is going to experience the divine. Everyone's going to experience this in consciousness. God is love, and we're returning to this wonderful love. I have such challenges with these theological perspectives that says God is love, but God stops loving at certain times. Like, I put up enough with you. I'm done. You used up all the love. I quit. I stopped loving you. You're on your own. You're going to burn in hell forever. I'm going to send you to hell. I'm going to punish you. I'm going to do all these kind of things. And this crazy theology that says, God says, I give you free choice, but if you don't make the choice I want you to make, I'm sending you to hell. Okay, how crazy that is. You know, that we would think that that's a theological perspective that describes love in its unconditional state. Love in its fullness. Love is what it really is. And love says, I've given you free will. Choose as you will. Please know that as the choices you make will have consequences. But free will and choice is the whole growing and learning experience. So I'm not going to hinder the growing and learning experience. I'm going to allow you to make these choices. And I think this is where, in good parenting, if we sat down with our child and said, here's the choices, which one would you like to make? And then ask, why did you make that choice? And why do you feel that's a good choice? Learning and teaching the children how to make good choices. Choices that are appropriate for them are good. Now, one of the things that my kids will always say, Dad, I don't want to hear it anymore. I always say, I know you know how to make good choices. Maybe it's more like this. I know you know how to make good choices. You know, it was more this kind of like, you know, a little, okay, I know. Maybe Dad says the choice I'm making isn't the right one. My daughter was engaged to someone who's 13 years older, did not have a job, lived with 5 other roommates, was 33 years old, didn't own a car, and had an autistic son from a relationship, not a marriage, but just a lot of baggage, a lot of challenges. And she accepted his proposal. 13 years older than my daughter when my daughter was 20, and he's 33. And I'm like, okay, nice guy. I just said, honey, if that, you know how to make good choices. And so I bought one of these wonderful wedding planning books, and I stick a card in there that simply said, on your wedding day, if you feel this is the best choice for your life, I will walk you down the aisle and give you away with great joy, because I know you know how to make good choices. And within 6 months, the engagement was off, and she moved on and found someone else that might have been, or I believe is the better choice or the right choice for her. Not to say this other gentleman was not a good man, but he had a lot of challenges, and was this the right combination for my daughter? So, you know, it's again, just imparting to our children, I trust you, and make these choices. And I'll journey with you through everything we're going through. I'm not going to camp there and be stuck to say, you made that wrong choice in 1978, and I'm going to hold you to that, and I'm going to stuck and just harp on that bad choice, bad. No, I'm going to help you through this. And we're going to say, you made a choice. Now, what do we do with this? And how do we work through this? And how do we go on to make it a success in life, or to make it a great learning experiences? It's about helping through, because the scripture says this too shall pass. And if we're going to pass, that means we're going to move through it. Okay. So, you know, even with Robert's passing and his death, I'm all about moving through it. And there are still people like, how can you move through this thing? We need to camp here for a while. I need to hold on, and we need to just sit here for another year or two and dwell on Robert's passing and how much we miss him, and how we're going to miss him. But we've got to move through and move on in life to what's next. Robert's gone. He's not coming back. So all of us are called, you know, and I realize that when some people say, whoa, dang, you move really fast. You just kind of moving on. And yeah, I mean, you didn't sit here and camp out and dwell on this and harbor on this. And, you know, you're moving on in life. And you're like, yeah, I don't think Robert said or would want me to say, I hope you'll mourn me for a good 10 years and you'll sit in sorrow and, you know, all this kind of stuff. He's like, he's rebirthed into eternal. He's blessed. I'm sure he would say, I want you to be blessed. I want you to move through. Don't set up camp. Yet I still have a lot of people who are like, well, dang, I haven't moved. Like, okay, well, that's your choice, and I'm okay with that. If you choose to dwell in the sadness, I had someone who said, hey, I'd love to come over to your house and we could sit on the patio and we could talk about Robert and we could just go and dwell, okay. The trouble is I've moved on and I'm not ready to revisit the passing, the death. I moved on. Doesn't mean I don't love him or value him, but I'm moving through this to something else. So I'm not wanting to sit around and talk about the sadness and the loss and the sorrow and the emptiness and all that, as some people would love to revel in. They would enjoy setting up camp. And I'm like, I'm moving on out. My trailer has pulled away and I've gone on. I've broken camp and I've moved on out. And I'm going on to the greatest, newest, whatever best that the universe has for me, because I know there's more for me out there. And I'm living that and claiming that. So, some people are like, oh, I just think you're rushing, you need to spend time in sorrow, sadness, Well, people don't sometimes understand that I've also been in sorrow and sadness, informed that Robert was dying about 6 years ago. So,
That's right.
it's again, everyone's perspective, and I want to be gracious to help them, but I want to also realize part of my role is I'm moving on. Hey, I can help you maybe move on too, and help you through that. So what we have here is this wonderful word that the kingdom is where we love each human being we encounter because we know what they are. I know that you are love. I know that you are the expression of God. So if I'm going to see you and experience you to the fullest, I need to see you and experience you as love, as God being revealed. Because I love this. How can we say we love God and not love everyone? Because everyone is a revelation of God. And how can we treat one another, or how we treat one another is how we treat God. So let me tell you this. How we treat one another is truly how we're treating God in so many ways. We're kind of flippant, we're rude, we're dismissive, we're not caring. And we've been that all through our lives in some shape or form, hindering this wonderful expression of the divine flowing in the world around us. So the real question we wake up every day is, what would love do? WWLD, what would love do? And that's the answer to every scenario, everything we face. What would love do in this case? What would love do in this experience? That's what I want to do. And that's how I'm called to act. 1 John 4, 7 and 8 in the scripture says, beloved, let us love one another because love comes from God. Everyone who loves has been born of God or has been awakened, not born, being born again, and knows God. Whoever does not love does not know God, because God is love. So we have to ask ourselves, are there areas of this world that I'm not being love, sharing love, that I don't love? Ooh, then there's areas where I'm dismissing God or I'm pushing away God. I don't want to push away any aspect of God. I want all of God. And this phrase that people say, I love this sinner, but I hate the sin. But to love someone but hate their learning experiences, okay, is really a crazy aspect to how we love. Because it's their journey. And they're going through, they may need to go through this. They may need to miss the mark so they know how to hit the target. If you're learning archery and you're pulling that bow back and you're shooting that arrow and releasing it at the target and you miss, you think, well, what could I do better? Well, maybe raise up the arrow. Maybe I need to calculate the distance and the drop of the arrow. I need to think about these things. What did I learn when I missed the mark? Okay? I don't want to begrudge you any of your sins. Does that sound crazy? I don't want to begrudge you any of your learning experiences. Any of the moments in your life where you've fallen short, I'm not here to judge you and say, shame on you for that choice. Shame on you for making that mistake. Shame on you for that failure. No. I'm here to love you through and say, what did you learn? Help me learn it with you. Help me, maybe so that I wouldn't make that mistake by learning from the missing the mark experience that you have. So for me to love them, but to hate their experience, their learning experience. For sin is simply missing the mark, and it's through that we learn how to hit the mark. Does that make sense? So let's remove all this guilt and shame that people want to dump on our lives because we haven't been the best or made the best choices. But we can look through and say, what did you learn through that? And how are you better because of it? And I'm really grateful that you had that experience. And I have learned with you from this experience. I've journeyed with you, but we haven't set up camp. We've moved through it. Okay? So, as we attune to the frequency of love and belief about love, our belief about love is going to be recreated, and it's going to have some experiences where we need to unlearn some things. For the power of truth is that it's like a light that shines on everything that is not true and releasing the untrue through its exposure. So what we're going through is like when we experience truth, universal truth, when we experience something that's really universal truth, it always has been, always is true. It shines on everything. So, and it's like a beacon or a beam of light, and it helps to reveal things that are not true. Okay.
Can you give us an example?
Let's say we're experiencing the truth that you are created in the image and likeness of God. When we embrace this truth, then it shines a light on the fact that you're not sinful by nature. Your true nature is divine, good, original blessing. You see, too much of our theology has been a focus on how unworthy we are and how sinful we are. And that, there's some people preaching that when that baby is born and takes its first breath, it's a sinner. It's born in evil nature. That is an evil thing that is just coming to the world, and it needs to be saved. And it's got an evil sense about it. There's some people who believe that every baby, and so they rush to have this baby baptized, somehow sprinkled with some water, that somehow it's going to be spared from its evil nature. Wait a minute. That beautiful gift, that gorgeous baby, is born in innocence and in beauty and in love and in blessing. It's only when we teach it to hate, when we teach it separation, when we teach it limitations, when we teach it all things to be feared, that is imparted in them because it's taught. It's not innate. Because no baby comes into this world cussing, swearing, smoking cigarettes, and drinking beer and doing drugs and, dancing and cruising with all kinds of evil women, as the Assemblies of God would say. That's that sinful baby. It's coming in that nature. I can tell that kid, it's day number 1. I saw him, just with a filthy mind, No, that's taught. Okay. David's comment.
Yeah, my comment was, I think in the first book in the series, it talks about the fact that babies, when they come into the world, they know they're Christ itself. And it's only as they grow and mature, we take that from them and fill them full of lies. And,
And in learning.
and yeah.
Yes, I truly believe that. We just came from the divine, and that soul that has arrived within that fetus that's now birthed, that's coming, taking its first breath, and that soul unites with that temple of the Lord, that body, that Tupperware container that holds our soul. Well, yes, it's coming with that fresh awareness of their Christ consciousness. But then our world begins to teach all the lies. You're not good. You're not whole. You're not perfect. You're evil. Okay. Norma, did you have a comment?
Yes, going back to that sentence, it said, the power of truth is that it is like the light that shines on everything that is not true and releasing it. That's pretty much what's going on in the world today. The race riots and the droughts and the too much rain and the farmers can't grow the food and everything is coming up to be.
Yes. So we're going through a lot of experiences for us to learn, to have a greater understanding of what all is going on in our world, and for the purpose of healing. Everything unlike love is rising to the surface for the purpose of healing. So our fear-based self responds then to this higher vibration of love. That fear-based person within us, it's going to respond to this higher vibration of love. So imagine you have a basket that's woven through with fear, okay? And then that fear informs all things that the basket holds. But when fear is released, what the basket holds is fearless, okay? So we have to look at ourselves in our life. People who come from a fear-based thinking, and they've been taught this, and this is part of their journey, they have embraced a lot of fear. They're constantly going to look through everything in the world through the eyes then of fear, because their basket, shall we say, is woven through with fear, and it informs all the things that the basket holds. So this consciousness of fear informs every thought that's coming in from a fear-based perspective. So, you know what? That fear just goes running rampant. It just goes unbelievable. Have you encountered these people who are fear-based? You know, there's just, everything is fear. You know, I grew up in a religion that was very fear-based, and it taught fear. Fear that you'd be left behind. Fear that God didn't love you if you weren't making God's choices and doing what God wanted you to do, even though that God gave you free will. That God would stop loving you. There was all this fear-based stuff that would go on in your life. So you live from this energy of fear that says fear is radiating within me, and it formed every decision I'm making, like, oh dear, someone's out to get me. Someone's going to attack me. I got to be careful here. I got to be careful there. I'm living in fear all the time. And fear just begins to escalate and go crazy, because no matter who we are, we're living in a world that's constantly embracing some level of fear. No matter what our perspectives on life, we are going to be embracing some levels of fear until we release this all. And the more fear we hold in our life, the more fear shapes all of our opinions, ideas, and outlooks in life. Okay? So, you know, it's, you know, we're afraid someone's going to attack us, so we buy a gun. Every noise we hear is that attacker is coming. And before you know it, we got this gun in our hand and we're holding it and we killed somebody. And then we're afraid that, you know, what they're going to do because we killed somebody. And then we want to hide the body. And I mean, you see all these storylines going in movies, and but it's all fear-based. It runs because every decision is being informed by the basket of fear. Everything that comes is now a fear-based thought. So, you know, suddenly the doctor tells you have cancer. You swear you're going to die. You now make all these decisions out of fear that you're dying now. And, you know, everything begins to escalate rather than I'm living, you know. When fear comes into our life and this begins to be our foundation, we're thinking everything from this perspective, fear, every experience is now going to be shaped by that. So what we want to do is be love-based, and love knows no fear. Yes?
I think I'm about to learn what this really is, and this is just a little story. I have to have a molar removed by an oral surgeon, and my daughter told me last night she had gone to him with some trauma that she'd had on a tooth, and she said he had a heart attack in work one day, and his nurse, who had worked for him for 20 years, did CPR on him and brought him back. And as I thought about that, I thought, this guy's been with God in a way none of us have, you know. I mean, we have at some point, but, and so I thought, it's caused a lot of thought in me, but what he's doing, and she said he's really great mom, he's really good, and he's so nice and everything, but I gotta believe that he's doing things from a different perspective now that he's had a near-death death experience and come back. And so I'm trying to work that into my thinking of my fear of having that, you know, that procedure done and all. But and you know, in love, we do our best. And so even if the root breaks off and he has to go digging for it, I know that in love, he's done his best. That factors in. So.
Yeah. Isn't this the funniest thing, though? Don't we love to tell fear-based stories to people? Oh, you went on vacation to Tahiti? Oh, I went to Tahiti. It was terrible. Well, I lost my luggage. I had a terrible time. I got so sunburned. There were sharks in the water. Oh, it was just terrible. Have a good time. And what did we just set? We just put all kinds of fear-based thoughts into people. And we're so good about this in our conversation. Oh, you're going to move to, Ohio. Oh, I used to live in Ohio. It's a terrible state. The weather's really bad. Oh, but enjoy your move, and we're really good at this. We're good at telling people fear-based stories and imparting fear to one another rather than saying, you're going to have your molar removed. I see it's going to be successful, wonderful. It's going to be easy. It's going to be a wonderful experience for you. You're going to enjoy the little laughing gas or whatever stuff that they give you, anesthesia. It's going to be wonderful. You'll sleep through it. You'll have a great time. When you're all done, you'll be so glad you did it. You're going to have just such relief. We're just excited for you and this experience. Now go to that dentist and have a good time. Now that's a big difference,
Of course.
Yes.
Okay, but sometimes can you not tell a story, and in that story, even if some of it was fear-based, you can say, but in the end, well, this is how I overcame this.
Yes.
Yeah.
That can be imparting hope and promise and instilling, but leaving people with just the story of fear, of what to be afraid of, or that's not going to work for you. Even when you share your dreams and your aspirations and then people want to poo-poo them constantly and say, well, that ain't going to work. Trust me, I did it and it didn't work for me. And it's not going to work for you either. And like, why are you so stupid? And before you know, they've killed the dream, right? So, and we're so good at killing the spirit of hope and optimism and positivity that it generates greater healing and wholeness within us by dumping stories of things to be afraid of.
I think it
Lethe.
pretty much boils down to having your very own experience of whatever. Some years ago, a friend of mine said she'd never been to Paris and she wanted to go and you tell me your experience. I said, well, I did not like Paris at all. But I did love the countryside and I love the mountains, the Switzerland, and blah, blah, blah. But I said, you need to go and have your very own experience.
Yes.
Well, she did, and she said she loved it. See? So it's all a matter of experiences. That's
Right.
all.
Exactly. So let's just be kind and loving to one another and not impart the fear or instill the fear or the negativity. Let everyone have their own experiences through it all. Easier said than done in our world, right? Now, the path of truth is more than just rules or dogma or a prescription and saying, if you do these things, it's a way of living. So sometimes we get an idea that we're going to live out our path of truth by if I do X, if I do Z, if I do this, So there's a lot of people like, well, if you just meditate every day, okay, I'm doing the meditation. I'm like, okay, I got to meditate, got to follow the rules, just meditate every day. But it's a way of living. It's not about a rule or a dogma or a have to. Now, these all things can be wonderful, but it's about you finding the rhythm of living your spiritual life that's appropriate for you on your journey, okay? We have some people, like say, oh my God, the spiritual people are vegan or vegetarians. That may work for you. And I'm not saying don't do it. I'm saying find what works for you. But don't have someone say to you to say, my pathway or this rule or this dogma or this doctrine is the only way that you're going to achieve your highest and best. David has a question.
You just hit the hammer on the nail.
Okay. All right. Because we have people who say, this is, again, the highest and best way of living. Well, that may be for you, okay? But it's not for me, you know what I mean? I grew up with, these pastors who were preaching what I call the clothesline gospel in the holiness church, and they were preaching against, women wearing dresses, women wearing pants, how sinful it was for a woman to wear pants, I didn't care what a woman wear, and good Lord, if she's going to be in the garden, put a pair of pants on. You don't want to be gardening in a miniskirt anyway. Bending over and all. What's your hang up with the woman wearing pants? Well, because it's men's clothing, and it's I don't know how many men want to wear pink pants with a zipper on the side. Remember those ladies wore the pants on the side? There were ladies' pants and all this kind of stuff. They were designed specifically for the woman's figure and appropriate for the woman and all that. It's like this kind of thing. Find your own pathway, And this is what I want to say. For someone preaching their issues, dumping their convictions on you that are not your convictions, that's their issues of what they're going through. So what we understand, it's a way of living. It's not you must do this and you must do that. But Jesus, our master teacher, said, follow me. He said, I'm an example. I'm showing you how you could live your life. This is the way. This is not what to think. This is how to think. Okay? So example, do unto others as you'd have them do unto you, is how to think, not what to do. Think about that. Because I need to think about, how am I doing this unto other people? Didn't say, well, always do X, always do Y, always do this. No, you have to decide for yourself. How do I want to be treated? Well, that's how I will do to someone else. That's how I will. That's why I tell them marriage counseling all the time. You want to know how you want to be treated? Treat your spouse that way. If you want to be loved, treat your spouse that way. That's how you want to be loved. Tell your beloved, I appreciate this. I value this. I'm so grateful. Thank you for doing that. Well, you're teaching them how you want to be loved and by how you love them. Okay? So it's a matter of thinking. It's not a set of rules. It's how you think. And this is the way of living. So true spiritual teachings, you know what? They've got to be proved. There's a lot of people come up with a spiritual teaching. This is their interpretation of Scripture. But it has to be proven. Malachi 3:10 says, bring ye all the tithes into the storehouse, that there may be meat in mine house, and prove me now. So what we find here, and we're on page 3 of our notes at the top, is this wonderful passage that says, prove, prove, prove. Demonstrate it. Live it to the point that you know it. Live from it until you become it, because you will not know it until you are it. Okay? So I can tell you all kinds of spiritual laws and classes, and I can teach you different things, but until you begin to experience it, because again, it's your personal experience, as Lethe brought out. That's how you'll know it. Okay? So when we say things like, as you think, so you are. When you start looking at that, say, wait a minute, what have I been thinking about myself? Because that's what's shaping the life I'm living right now. So you have to have your own experience then of saying, I'm going to change my thinking about who I am and what I am, and it's going to change my life experiences. And then when you've done that and you've experienced the change and the transition in your life, you now are knowing it and you begin to live from it. Because as a spiritual coach, as a pastor for you, I can share you, coach you on a lot of things, but until you've done it yourself. Dave plays basketball. Dave Daniels over here was the third highest scorer in the state of Tennessee, headed for a basketball scholarship. Yes.
Many years ago.
Just a few years ago, yes, because, okay, in ancient times, yes, when cavemen played basketball, that's when Dave was. So I'm sure he had a coach that would tell him all about how you shoot, how you look at the net, how you align all that, but it's only through the personal experience of doing it that he learned how to be such a successful basketball player, headed for a scholarship, headed on the journey to be famous, headed to lots of money and fame. And wait, what happened, Dave? No.
There was a stop to that.
There was a stop to that, a little knee injury that put on a different pathway. Okay. But dang, You were headed towards that basketball fame, right? All right. But anyway, but my point is, he experienced it. And by experiencing it, he could live it. And even today, we're walking the dog, and here is the neighbor's hoop out in the middle of the cul-de-sac with a ball sitting there. He picks it up, starts shooting it. Missed, but I mean, he starts shooting it and hit it and hit. Just kidding, and hit it, and he could make. He could, yeah, you'll get me later. He demonstrated his abilities, his skill. He's experienced it. He lived it. He knew it, and that's the same thing for our spiritual life. Let's get out there and experience it. Experience it. Practice it. Do it. You want to have great faith? Well, what did you believe for today? When you woke up this morning, what did you start believing for? What were you practicing? Because when you start practicing your faith and living your faith, you hone the craft of your faith, you start living from your faith, you become so good at it, you become it, and you will not know it until you are it. So you've got to practice, practice, practice. You must be experienced and experienced on a day-to-day basis. Okay, Dr. David Carter.
Okay, so you ask us on a regular basis, what did you believe for today before you even got out of the bed? But sometimes there's so much stuff going on. How do you narrow it down? And I'm asking that question because I remember what you said. I took it to heart about before you even get out of the bed, you know, be thankful, but what are you believing for today? But as I'm learning things, for instance, when I woke up this morning and was conscious that I was awake, I said, I did the song thing about I know who I am, I know what I am. Okay, so is that believing for that because that's what I said? Or was I supposed to believe for something else in addition to that?
No, that's
Does that make
powerful
sense?
because everything is going to stem from that.
Okay.
So that's great. But there can be something that you want to exercise your faith in, that maybe you want to believe for unexpected income, or you want to believe for some healing or some experience that you may be a little bit more focused and more specific on. But I love that you woke up in the morning and you begin to claim, I am, and this is who I am, and this is how I live and operate in the world. I am here, I'm here, I'm here, and you know, I'm present in this moment. That's wonderful. Claim that, begin to practice that, and do it until you experience it and you live from that. And then, wow, that's going to be an overarching thing that so many aspects of believing for the smaller things will manifest for you. So, you know, you don't learn to love. You learn behavior. You are love. You're going to learn the behavior of love, but you are love. So you don't learn to say, oh, I want to learn what love is. No, what you're learning is the behavior of what you are, how you demonstrate what you already are. And you allow love to be as you, and what happened is the behavior in your life is going to change. When you start saying, I am love, and I operate from love. I am love in this room. I am love in this moment. That's who I am. You know what happens? Your behavior is going to change. Mm-hmm. Now, when you say, I'm a holy terror, I'm a troublemaker, I'm a problem, I'm an antagonist in this room, yeah, your behavior is going to be very unloving. But when you say, I am love, suddenly your behavior will align and shift with this. So to reach the heavens as a conscious being simply means that you align to this love. You must be aligned. You must change your thinking. You must be born again. You must embrace this new consciousness, this new thought within your life. For the divine self that you hold is not full of a history, because it's infinitely perfect. You're already infinitely perfect. Okay, David's going up with a question.
I've been waiting to get to this.
Okay.
Okay. I understand. I think I understand what it says, but this is my question though. Okay, so each of us is a divine expression of God, and all of us make up God. Okay, but as an individualized expression of God, you take your personality with you. Okay, your personality has memory attached to it, so that's what's confusing to me.
Okay.
How does, yeah.
So let's separate personality and the word history. What the author is trying to bring out here is your divine self that you are doesn't hold the history of decisions you made yesterday,
Right.
the decisions you made 10 years ago, or how it turned out in a relationship 5 years ago, or when you made a cake and it didn't turn out well. You know, your divine self knows every day is the highest and best, so it's not clouded over with these experiences you've had in the past. Okay? So you may say, you know, yesterday I, drove down 85 and there was a car accident. I know today I'm going to drive down 85 and there's going to be a car accident. I know tomorrow I'll drive down 85 and there'll be a car accident. So your divine self, the true self of you, is not holding onto that history.
Right.
Every day is its highest and best. So you don't have to hold on to however yesterday turned out. Doesn't mean your today has to turn that way today. Like we say, people with my family heritage is a line of cancer. My mother had cancer. My grandmother had cancer. My aunt had cancer. I'll have cancer too. No, you don't need to own that history. Your perfect self, your divine self, does not own that. Okay? Does that help you?
No.
No. Okay.
I think, okay, I understand what you're saying about the divine self, but that divine self is individualized, correct?
Right.
And in that individuality is your personality. So you're saying that your personality does not hold any memory, any history? Because I think it does. Because it's who you are, and your history is what's made you who you are.
But that personality,
Okay.
if it's the divine personality, has let go of all those experiences as you realize who you really are.
Okay, so
But you're holding in memories, the memories you have of past failures and shortcomings and experiences are memories of you not being your divine self.
Okay.
They're you being your lower self, should we say, but not your divine self.
So
Because-
the divine self, okay, so the personality that's attached to the divine self, because it's God, it's just always the highest and best.
And sees and remembers and holds this wonderful
Only the
experience.
best.
Only the best. Everything is, behold, I make all things new. Everything is new and full of opportunity and full of blessing and full of goodness when we're thinking from the divine self. But our material, physical self, that ego, may hold on to past experiences, and they may be woven into our personality.
Okay.
But we can release those, and our personality can exchange and evolve.
So the
To the
personality
highest.
has no memory? Or it only remembers the good?
It sees the good in every experience.
Okay.
It sees the good in every experience. And it knows that once you've gone through that experience, you don't have to go through that again.
Yeah.
You don't have to repeat that because you've already learned from it and it was so good. The learning experiences was so valuable. You see it from something positive. Lethe.
I'm kind of wanting to agree with David in the sense that you do have memories. Now my question is the subconscious and the divine self the same thing? Or is the divine self a cut above the subconscious? Because it's my understanding that your subconscious do all things.
Right. I think there's a super consciousness that we call the divine that is even more elevated through it all. For the subconscious may hold within it some of the elements of negativity that we're still working through, that we act out from our subconscious, from our negativity. But the super consciousness is the full awareness of the divine. Yes.
Okay, but the subconscious is where your true nature resides, right?
Yes.
And the true nature is your divine self.
Right.
But the okay.
You got it.
Yeah.
You answered you thought it through. Wonderful. Processing, working it through. I love this. We're connecting the dots. We're stretching the taffy, shall we say. All right. Let's move on. Eternal life is the central theme of the Gospel of John. This life is both present reality as well as a future hope. It is unique in its nature, in both quality and quantity. And it comes by knowing God through his Son, Jesus Christ. It is the life of critical soteriological importance because it endures despite the reality of physical death. Okay, let's break this down. Eternal life. First of all, let's understand this. Jesus said, "He who rejects me does not receive my sayings. When we are not following the teachings of Jesus, we have rejected the master teacher. And in our world today, we have a lot of people proclaiming that they are in some religious group, but they're not following the teaching of Jesus. Okay? They're not following the teachings of Jesus at all. They're like, well, we don't care about the teaching of Jesus. What was the teaching of Jesus about concern for the poor, widows, the least among us, the less fortunate? A lot of people don't care about that. What is the very teaching of the scriptures about how we treat the word aliens? I love that. But it means how we treat those who are foreigners or different from us. It doesn't mean foreigner, doesn't necessarily mean just people from another country. It could be people who are just different. How we treat them, and that we're called to welcome them because we may be entertaining angels among us. Be hospitable to those, and how we treat one another is really important. You know, when we look at all these teachings, it should shape our actions of how we live out compassion and care in the world. So what we're doing is, quite often we're rejecting the very teaching of Jesus. Our very eternal life, how it unfolds, has been brought to us through the teaching of Jesus. Jesus being the great example. And when we read the Bible, every Bible story is your story. It's the psychology of your soul. So I want you to read the Bible and put yourself in the story as Jesus. Put yourself in the story as Peter. Put yourself in the story as Mary, because that's how we begin to understand what the message is for our lives. God so loved the world that he gave the only begotten Son, and that only begotten Son is the word for the firstborn. So what we're understanding is that God gave us this firstborn for each and every one of us. This example of firstborn, this Christ awareness. The firstborn is that you are heir to all things. The firstborn of any family would be like you are heir to all the good things of the family. Secondborn? Thirdborn? Well, we're all to understand that we are firstborn, okay? But in ancient times, in this time of these writing, the understanding is people gave all the inheritance to the firstborn, okay? So the firstborn was heir to all the good. And this is where we are Jesus, we are Christ. The Christ consciousness is us understanding you are the firstborn. You are the heir. You're the heir to all these things. God so loved the world, loved us, that he wanted us to understand that we are all the firstborn. We are all heirs to all good. Whoever believes this teaching, this example of Jesus, will not perish. They're not going to suffer, and the perish is not, there's not an end to eternal life, because perish would kind of exude. And this is where the translations of this Hebrew, of this Aramaic text may not be as accurate. But to perish is to struggle in the world of limited thinking. But you'll not struggle in the world of limited thinking, but you'll be embracing this whole understanding of eternal life. Does that make sense?
Yes.
We're understanding this whole passage, what it means for us. Because you are here for one reason, and that is to reveal heaven, reveal the kingdom, reveal God. We have embraced that phrase from some of our previous authors who say you're here to taste chocolate. You're here to experience life. You're to experience it firsthand. That's what you're here to go through. Each and every one of us are called to experience it. And we're going to experience it differently because we're all on a different journey. We all have something different to learn. We all have something different to manifest. We all have something different to experience in this whole, and that's what you're here to do. You're here to experience it. And to allow that experience to grow your soul, for your soul to evolve through the personal experiences that you have. As long as you believe that you are bound to these limiting laws of man and this earth, you're going to be tethered, tied up, bound to the limiting laws, and it's going to hold you back at your vibrational level. It's going to limit you. as long as you are continuing to believe in these limiting laws. So let's just move and release ourselves from that. Yes, Anne.
So, I hope I can remember this. Personality is not soul. Soul is what's been created by God in perfection in us. Personality is the system of how we express that or behave, and if it's disordered, like a personality disorder,
It's learned.
it's learned. Or taught, or experienced. Yeah. Okay.
Where the soul is created in its goodness.
Perfection, yeah.
But as we've gone through these experiences of life, of tasting chocolate, and our experiences, we have learned to be rude, to be cocky. We've learned to be insensitive. We've learned to be hateful. That has shaped our personality. Okay? And we've learned through this, your personality is based on a lot of things, on how you react to experiences in life. So there are people who say, well, that's just me. This is my personality. I've always been rude, and I'll always be rude because that's just me. You got to accept me for who I am. But your innate nature is divine, and is love. It is not rude. And we learn to shape that personality as we learn to say, wait. How I'm reacting to the experiences of my life is going to mold and shape and perfect that personality. Yes?
Yeah, I agree. We got to be careful not to judge somebody's soul or say something that, well, they got a sorry excuse for a soul when it's really a personality flaw we're talking about.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's learned behavior. It's learned behavior, You know what? Sometimes we as parents, we spoil our children and they become spoiled brats and their personality is kind of spoiled. Well, we did it to them.
Yeah.
We taught them that way. We created a personality that lives out that way. And yet that same personality could be molded and shaped in another way. And have you met people who've had really great personality changes in life? I'll tell you, I am one. When I was younger and living in self-hatred and the lack of self-acceptance for who I am, I was very critical. It was a defense mechanism. And I thought, rather than you be critical of me, I'll be first critical of you and tell you, you're not wearing that. That's so ugly. That's horrible. Don't do that. And I would be critical to my parents and my family. My parents were like, our youngest child is the most critical thing and the most opinionated and judgmental thing about everything in life. And my mother would sometimes she'd look at me like, okay, how do I look? What are you going to say that's, mother, your hair looks terrible. You're not wearing that dress, are you? That looks, what was I doing? I was being judgmental because I wasn't at peace with my own life. And so my personality was very critical and judgmental. The moment I accepted myself for who I am and loved myself, all that critical nature fell away. And I can remember my mother saying to me, okay, what's wrong with me now? I'm like, Mom, you look beautiful. My mother's, what happened to my child? Like, is some alien abduction? And, took my son away and replaced it with this kind, gentle-spirited, loving, complimentary being. Like, what happened to him? Personality change. A change that happened deep within because I accepted myself and loved myself for the first time. And when I did that, I unlearned something and I learned something new. And I had a shift in my personality. And I think my soul grew through the whole experience. And so I am grateful for the experience of what I went through. And and people I could look back and say, I'm grateful for the experiences of me making so many mistakes and being so critical because I learned, I look back at myself like, dang, I was pretty blatant with criticism and judgment and, could tell people, like I thought I was the all-know authority on everything, and thank God I went through that horrific experience, but thank God I went through and I've learned I don't want to be that way. I want to be complimentary. I want to edify. I want to lift up. I want to build up. I want to encourage. That's what I want to be. And
So now I know that the day someone came to me and said, the trouble with you is, I can say, wait a minute, I'm perfect in my soul. Is that how you talk to God? The trouble with you, God, is, because I'm God. Okay.
That's right. And too often we look at our humanness and not look at our divinity. Let's see the divinity in one another and call forth that, then constantly calling forth and naming the humanness, the error, the mistake, all those kind of things. Let's move on. Now, as you welcome the higher vibration of love, you're going to be tempted to claim the old ways in security because you're used to this. It's based on the habits or reactions that you've always expressed to things of the world. But now comes a change in how you're going to react because you are now operating a higher vibration of love. And that was me in my illustration of me having self-acceptance and loving myself. I moved to a higher vibration of love. The old reactions to what people did and said were now passed away, released, given up. And I began to see the world in a different way. I began to, rather than wanting to criticize as a defense mechanism, because I thought if I could tear you down, I could beat you to it before you tear me down, because I don't love myself. I want to make sure you don't love yourself either, and oppressed people want to oppress others, don't they? Someone else is oppressed. I want you to be, I'm miserable. I want you to be miserable too, and that's just the way we are in life. So what happens when we release that misery, that consciousness of oppression, that lack of self-acceptance, we move on up to a higher level of vibration, and our thinking, our actions, our behavior are all going to change because you are God, and that's just the way it is. There's a little box in your notes that just embraces that graphic. But the greater enlightened person that you are, the greater that you are enlightened, you're like a thunderbolt. You're like lighting up the sky. You are the expression of God, the divine source. You know and you realize. That's the beautiful thing. You're God. You're God. You're love. And that's just the way you are. Just the way you are. You're love. You're amazing. You're beautiful. You're gorgeous. You're infinite possibilities. You are peace and joy and happiness and all these things. You're just release them because you are. That's your true nature. Let's get back to who we truly are. Not the lies that the world has taught us, not the behavior that the world has taught us, not the conditions that the world has taught us, but let's go back to who we are. Wonderful. Well, thanks for joining us for this class today. We hope that you've received all kinds of nuggets of inspiration, and we'd love to hear from you. So we'd like to know what spoke to your heart today. What's your takeaway from this class experience? For those of you who are joining us through our live streaming, we'd love to invite you right now. Just type in a phrase or two. This is your takeaway. This is what you've experienced. And while we're waiting to hear from you, we're going to go around our classroom and let all of our students have a chance to express what their aha moment was or what their takeaway is from this class experience. So we're going to start over here with Dave, our basketball pro, and we're going to find out what his takeaway is.
Gosh, there's so much in this lesson that it's hard to pinpoint one thing. But I will say, when we were talking about the bird pushing his young out, I remember my son was coming home one night and he had a little too much to drink and he hit some mailboxes. My ex-wife called and she was crying, uncontrollable, and said, "What are we going to do? I don't know what to do. What can we do?" I said, "We have taught him right from wrong. We've given him all examples that we possibly can give him. He knows what he needs to do. So it's on him to make the right decision." And after about 2.5 hours of talking to her, she finally calmed down. But the point was, he knew what we had taught him, and he knew the right from wrong. And the first thing he said to me when I saw him was, "I know that I did wrong, and I'm sorry for that."
Beautiful.
So love can conquer all, and I think that's the example that I can give.
Great. Let's go to Norma.
Well, I love the conversation. I love hearing different points of view and different questions. That in itself is a learning experience. But I caught this, and it's just a little thing, but it says to love the sinner by hating sin is to love someone but to hate their learning experience. And that's a whole new way of looking at that to me.
Right.
I like this.
Wonderful. Amy.
I missed the part, the question David had, but it got me thinking on the difference of personality versus
The soul.
is it your soul?
Right.
Okay. But it made me think that personality, you can change your personality, but you can't change the soul because the soul is the eternal part of you. But you can change your personality by, a change of personality comes from change in perception. And if you acknowledge and embrace who you really are, which is a soul with skin covering it, then you can overcome a lot of,
Personality challenge.
personality issues.
Yeah.
So.
Excellent. Amy, you got it. You get an A for the day. How's that? Excellent. Brenda.
So wait a minute.
Yeah.
I want to comment on what Amy said.
All right.
So basically, then that's the evolution of the soul. So the soul is changing in the sense, are we remembering what it already knew?
Right. The soul is perfect.
Yeah.
Soul doesn't need to change anything.
Right.
Yeah.
It just needs to evolve out to its understanding of its perfection. So what we're doing is going through experiences of life to say, life is good. I just got to recognize it.
Yeah.
So I'm going through these challenges and these experiences. I'm missing the mark to realize how good I am, how blessed I am, how I am God, I am divine. I am just living in eternal prosperity. That's who I really am. The soul doesn't need anything. It just needs to evolve what it is. Release what it is. So don't ask Jesus in. Let's set some Jesus out. That's kind of what we're doing. All right. Brenda.
I think I'm so glad that some of the worst mistakes I ever made, because from those mistakes I learned the most. And as we look at our children, we know that they are living their lives in their own mistakes, and they're going to learn a lot from it. So we should be grateful for those things.
Amen. I agree. Aren't the biggest lessons you've learned in life based on the mistakes you've made versus, someone else just giving you advice or teaching you something like, okay, that was lovely, but boy, I sure remember this mistake and I ain't never going to do that one again. I experienced, so yes, we should be grateful for our sins then in that context. Yes.
And
Lethe.
sometimes we learn from other people's mistakes too.
Yes.
There's a lot of stuff that,
If we're smart.
yeah, if we're smart, right? But I think this whole discussion is so healthy. I'm getting so much from it. But I think the whole thing just adds up to love. Really, and as you said, you should make a decision on how you'd like to be treated, and how would we like to be treated, lovingly. So that's pretty much what I'm hearing today.
Beautiful. Anne, what's your takeaway?
This is a little askance, but this spoke to me. Love is not seeking attention to feel good. It's vibrational. I think I could write a whole book on that. And I think back about the kids we saw in school, and you could tell the ones that needed some love and attention. And what you had to do is just vibrate love around them. And that's what, we don't seek outside of ourselves. We don't say, oh, I need some love, so I'll go play some certain music or something. You need to go within and vibrate love.
Excellent takeaway. Wonderful. Let's go to Steve.
If you're living in fear, you're not living in love. I don't think they can really coexist. I know there will probably be some arguments to that and some challenges to that, but I'm up for that. But if you're living in fear, you're not living who you are. You're living, in fact, I wouldn't even say you're living, you're dying. And therefore, it's one of those things where if you've lived your whole life in fear, then you've really not only not known what real living is, you've never known who you are. Because who you are is love. And I like this class because it kind of reminds me of our previous class, the Prospering Power of Love. It's a powerful topic. This is something we should think about doing over and over because there's so much growth here.
Yes.
About the topic of love.
Beautiful. It's who we are, and we're constantly. We can't exhaust the topic of who we are and who God is. God is love, and we're never going to exhaust that completely. Yes, David Carter, Dr. David Carter.
Okay, my takeaway is love is a vibration and not a feeling. And I liken that to taking a pebble and dropping it in a pond and the ripple that vibrates out. And I thought about Dave's comment about his son's action and his former wife's response. For me, Dave was able to step back and not be freaked out because whether he knew it or not, his understanding of love said, this is my son's journey. I've done my job. Now it's my son's journey to do what he needs to do for him. And even in that vibration, he was also able, after a couple of hours, his vibration of love was able to calm down his former wife. So I love that.
Excellent. Great. Now, do we have takeaways from other students? No? All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. If you have enjoyed these classes through the Emerson Institute here at City of Light, we encourage you to offer a donation, a gift, or some means of support. You can go to our website at www.cityoflightatlanta.com. You'll find a donate button there and offer your gifts there. Greatly appreciated. Thank you for your support of this incredible spiritual enrichment program. Now we're going to look forward to seeing you next week as we continue on. It's going to be the last class of the Book of Truth. It's going to be session number 10 with the final chapter of the book. So we're looking forward to us having the same kind of energy and lively discussion. Let's give each other a round of applause for the great job you did today. I mean, the students, y'all did a wonderful job of asking questions, offering comments, extending the dialogue. This has been really, really great. I appreciate it so much. And for those of you joining us through live streaming and through our YouTube channel, City of Light Atlanta, we look forward to you joining us again through this vehicle. If you're local here in Atlanta, we encourage you to come join us in person. Our classes are growing in numbers, and we encourage everyone coming on out to share in great fellowship, spirit of encouragement shared with one another. And, of course, join us on Sundays at our celebration of the wonderful presence of God at 11 a.m. on our Sunday services. Oh, and I got to tell you all about, make sure you all listen up. We've got a workshop coming up. It is coming up on June the 19th. It is on the spirit of forgiveness. It's with Reverend Dr. Jerry Troyer. It's going to be hosted here in the Dr. Angelo Pizzello Wisdom Center at 10 a.m. on Saturday, June the 19th. And we encourage you all to come up. He's going to really explore that forgiveness is, it's a wonderful process. It's not just an event, it's a process. He's going to help us understand how that forgiveness works within us. So join us on the 19th of June at 10 o'clock here in the Dr. Angelo Pizzello Wisdom Center for this incredible workshop with Reverend Dr. Jerry Troyer. He is an author, a motivational speaker, a pastor, and he is the president of the Affiliated New Thought Network, a worldwide network of congregations and spiritual communities. And he has a great voice for us today of encouragement on the spirit of forgiveness. Look forward to it. God bless you. I look forward to seeing you again. I know that you're going to have a great week.